Please give a warm welcome to co-directors Natalie Rae and Angela Patton. Welcome, welcome. I'm going to start with a question that I've been dying to bring up. After the dance takes place, it's such a huge climax. The average documentary would have ended after. That was such a high, an emotional high for the film, for the audience, but you linger. 3 years plus after the dance. Can you tell us about that bold choice?
Yeah, for sure. I think we can both answer parts of that. That was a really nice standing ovation also. Thank you. Yeah, it would have been easy and emotionally cathartic and sort of also just resolve in a way, right? And I think we even had a lot of feedback from folks over the years going, okay, it feels like it just wants to end after the dance. But for me, it was so important. The Act 3 is almost the most important act of the film, which is, does this one day, this experience of touch, dance, movement, being together, being able to say I love you and look each other in the eye, does that 3-4 hours do something to these relationships long term? And the only way that we were going to be able to see that was to continue to commit ourselves to tell the story from these girls' perspectives, not bring our own thesis or outcome or what we were trying to say, but truly just be there for the girls for the next 3 to 4 or 5 years, and really see where all these relationships ended up. And we know that parent-child relationships take a long time to evolve and change and grow. And so, yeah, grateful that, Angela and I are in it. We're lifers. So we were in it for as long as it was going to ever take. And we were lucky that our partners were like, ooh, another 3-4 years. Interesting. Okay. And then came along for the ride. Yeah.
And what I would add to that is I've had the experience of hosting about 13 of these dances or the Date with Dad program. And so I was clear when Natalie and I decided to continue to linger on, what the girls experience after the dance. And I understood as well as the father's work has to continue. And as Natalie explained, that it's not resolved because it's still an unresolved issue. There's still hard work that needs to be done. And so this program is not a big bow tied around it at the end. We have to make sure that the families also understand that it's a long-term commitment. Mm-hmm. And so if the viewers would think, oh, all you have to do is a dance in the jail and all things are solved, then we would not be doing justice to the real work that needs to happen around family engagement and also strengthening at the same time. And anything that's complex, it takes, hard work. Right? It's not easy. Those of us on the outside that commit to strengthening our family dynamic knows that it is going to be ups and downs and roller coaster rides and good days as well. So we wanted to make sure that you had an experience of the same lived situations as the families would.
Thank you for what you do, Angela.
Thank you.
It's so inspiring. I want to ask you about the cinematography. It is so, we're used to seeing prison films that it's gritty, it's shot in digital, handheld camera. You bring so much dignity to the way it was shot with film, and also natural lighting. Can you address that choice and the importance of that choice?
Sure. Yeah, I think that Angela and I always wanted this to be from the girls' perspective, and these themes of wisdom and their own intuition, and this idea came from them. And then you get to meet them, and you see, Aubrey bringing so much wisdom to her father, and Santana, even using dance as a way to calm herself down and move through her anger. So we got to know the girls and let them really show us their worlds and their personalities, and then also become part of developing their storylines and what little memories or magic realism shots we'd bring into it. And so we did act like the beginning up to the dance was on Alexa because our cinematographer, Michael Cambio Fernandez, that was a tool that he owned and loved, but also because he had a parent that was incarcerated for 7 years, he just really wanted to film these children in the most like powerful cinematic way that he felt like they would never have been captured by before. And he knew how it was important that, you know, going through the security, the metal detectors, moments that in his childhood felt very dehumanizing, really wanted to show those. But we did decide to shoot the dance itself on 16 millimeter film because that was going to give us like the most human and soulful and timeless way that we could also capture these really special moments on celluloid and have it as that one special piece of art. You know, we'll never get that again. And so I'm so grateful that we did that. And I think that was one of the best choices we made because I don't think it would have that human grounded quality if we weren't able to do that.
But it was also a very risky choice because you could have messed it up.
Yeah.
Yes. And I just was commend Natalie for trusting me, and that's why I think our partnership really worked for this film is because she was, you know, fearful of that, you know, coming from her background, but she trusted that you would get it because what we're not going to do is say, go back again, right, and come back and meet your dad. It's like, this is, the doc tells you what it needs. And because I've had, again, this experience, that same experience that you all had, you know, a few minutes ago, I've had, you know, 15 times, and it never fails. You know, and I was like, trust the process. And so when I explained this to Natalie and the cinematographer, they all decided collectively what would be best to capture this image that they had one shot to get.
Yeah, the responsibility of capturing your dance and knowing kind of glimpses and how powerful and monumental this was, so much responsibility. So very risky to decide on film, but we all just knew that was going to be right. But one more little point on it, Cambio said, as the girls were coming down, his iris was filling up with so many tears. He was like, I have no idea if any of this will be in focus, but I hope God's with me today and it'll work out. Yeah, so I'm glad that it was.
I wanted to go back to the point that you alluded to earlier about the lyrical passages of the young ladies, and you give this young ladies agency in telling their story, and we see in those lyrical passages their fears, their happiness. You know, tell us about the importance of those passages, Angela.
Yes. Well, the importance of it is, again, Natalie and I understood that we needed to tell the girl story, focus on the girls, and not a jail story. And so that means spending so much time with the girls. And Natalie and the rest of the Daughters team really committed to being with the girls, to allow them to give us access to their world. You know, it was access to their world, just being with them. You know, Natalie has spent the night, you know, on the floor, you know, following them wherever they wanted to go. And we really wanted the girls to be in partnership with us. And what do you want to see? And also allowing the girls to see the footage to make sure that this is what you want to share. This is your journey, and you have invited us in. And I believe that Natalie was able to capture that with the cinematographer, understanding that that's actually the work that we do at Girls for Change anyway, even outside of the dance that happens in the jail. Co-creating with young people allows you to get out of your way. And so we do not want to tell them, we do not want to really show them, we want to follow them, and we want to listen to them actively, and that is why you see what you see. They allowed us, because of the trust and also building a very positive and healthy relationship with them, it allowed them to be free and wanted to actually give more that we couldn't even show.
But I want to emphasize, they had a say on the sequences and input.
Yes, with Natalie showing them, but I'll let her share that part too.
Yeah, I love like Angela's approach to young people, this idea of co-creating, and I think that's the energy that we brought to the space, going to like meet the girls or capture something. It's not like, hey, sit here, I'm going to do an interview. It's more like, we're going to spend the day together, and if you got questions for me, I got some for you. Let's chat about life and hang out. And so Aubrey, for example, really wanted to show me like the park that one of her last memories was catching butterflies with her dad. So she's like, we were over here and we got a butterfly here and a little worm, and so she's showing me her world, and that was so special. And then that became like, okay, well, if these memories are such a part of how you experience your day-to-day life, because she at 5, sort of the memory and the dream world and her reality blend together, and a lot of how she would express herself to me was through her dreams and her memories, and that was kind of the way she talked about her emotions. So to allow an audience into her experience, those layers of her reality were going to be really important. And then later, as she got older, like 8, 9, she was able to talk even more about them and help us shoot on Super 8 some of those moments around the river with the father's hand and the girl. So she kind of helped develop those ideas. And then we were at this point where we were like, are we done filming? Like, we've kind of like filled in this story, and we went on a kayak trip like up this river and just spent the day together, kind of like, is this it? Like, we don't know. We need a sign. And her father hadn't called her in like 6 months. The phones were shut down and he didn't have access. And we just pulled up to this little rock, and out of the blue, like, Keith calls, and she was able to answer and tell him what we did and how she filmed things that they did together. And he was like, that's right, baby. Like, when you want to think of me, go to nature. And I was like, oh my God, okay, I guess this is our sign. It was really beautiful.
The editing of the documentary, I've seen it a couple of times now, is so impressive. The balance between the male side of the story and the young ladies, and also within the 4 families that are depicted. Can you tell us the genesis of how you balance it all so intricately? Can you tell us about how you arrived to the final edit?
Sure. I mean, we can both speak to that, but I mean, I think equally, I didn't know going into it how captivating this side of Chad's work with the fathers was going to be, because I had met Angela, incredible, following her work, meeting the girls. But then with those fatherhood circles, I mean, wow, Chad sets such a grounded, open tone and addresses them. We're all dads, I'm not here to ask you what you did. I'm not here to like tell you what to do, but he's a really special soul. And to be able to work with Angela and Chad and watch what they do has been so inspiring. But again, Cambio going into that space, talking with the fathers, letting them know he's had this experience, so they could all just kind of put the camera down and create their own relationships. And Angela and I would usually not be in the room at that time and really let them just have their space. So I think we were able to create an energy on set, both for the girls and the fathers, that was really unique to what they needed to just be very open. So then I was surprised with how strong that storyline was, and then it was a balance that was going to be the most impactful way of kind of having these 2 sides get ready and emotionally connect the 2 as we went towards the dance.
Well, I'm going to be a little transparent. When it was time for Natalie and I to get into the editing, we had a lot of influencers that say, y'all can do this remotely. Because, even though COVID had passed us by in a way where we could be together again, people actually thought that it was just easier. But I do believe, because we had an opportunity to be with our amazing editor, Adelina, for a month, locked in a teeny little room in London, and really digging ourselves deep into this storyline and understanding that everything that we had allowed us to really collaborate as true partners. And understanding the work that Chad has done with me for over 20 years, I knew that it was significant, and again, I believe we trusted each other and leaned on each other in order to tell the stories of the girls. We really needed for you to see the mother side. We needed for you to see the work that the father was doing to prepare himself to really enter back into her life, or how could he stay connected to her. So when you actually really, truly think about all of the footage that you have, it was like, wow, what an amazing story to tell, which is the true story. If we only give you the dance or we only give you the girls, you don't see that everybody is doing the work. You don't even see how community shows up to support the work. So the work of Chad, understanding that the social worker clinique is making sure the fathers have what they need is very important, because I've had so many people call me and say, can you just do a dance in the jail? Just do a dance in the jail? And it's so much more than a dance in the jail. And so we wanted to capture that, and we were fortunate that we had enough to really show you all the moving parts.
Follow-up question. How did you come about choosing the 4 families? Were you guys following several ones and then during the editing narrowed it down, or you chose the 4 from the get-go?
It was like 6 at the beginning, and then a couple of the fathers couldn't attend the dance because they got moved to other facilities. But the 4 in there were just very organic. They wanted to be part of it. They were very open. And as you can see, we were just like, these are incredible girls and amazing fathers. So, and that span of 5 to 15 years old and everything.
But you could have never determined, I mean, all of them, Aubrey's, they're beautiful art.
Yeah, we didn't know what we were going to do. We just had, Andrew's like, trust, everyone will be interesting. I was like, okay, yep,
Yes.
but we love them.
Yes, and fortunately, the Washington, D.C. jail allowed every family to decide if they wanted to participate, and they all were, champions of it, like, yes, let's go, whatever. But you also have to be committed to, cameras following you around, calling families, and we all know that the impact of the criminal justice system is very hard on families. So we had to be very respectful of who could stay the course, and I just love the fact that instead of me saying that we chose them, I think that they chose us. And I always tell the families that there's 8 billion people in the world, and you are the 4 that are now the most greatest ambassadors on this planet. And you have an opportunity to create change not only in your lives, but all of our lives. So they are the lucky ones as well as we are.
One of the things that impressed me so much about your documentary is how relatable it was from the get-go. Like, I was coming in thinking, oh, this is about the prison system. This is not my world. I cannot speak for the African-American lives, but I immediately from the get-go felt so connected. So there's a universality about what you've done. Were you conscious of making it universal, making it relatable?
Yes, and that's because I never wanted to tell a jail story. We always wanted to tell a love story, and that is universal. So whatever you have felt, we've done our job. That was the goal, for you to see yourself, and also to say, maybe I don't understand incarceration, but I understand fatherhood,
and family.
Motherhood, family, children. I understand separation, celebration, and we all understand a dance. And we know how music makes us feel. We know healing. We know that the power of storytelling, if you get that opportunity, then tell it so it can be a powerful movement. And that was the goal.
Your DP, Michael Cambio, right? Fernandez.
Goes by Cambio, yep.
He makes touch so palpable, and when the fathers, I'm emotional thinking about it, when the fathers touch their daughters, it's so palpable. Can you address the touch aspect?
Yeah, so I don't think, for me anyways, I knew that was going to be such a central theme, and that was one of the beautiful things that was uncovered as we went through the process and learned from, as we started to interview the fathers, that their in-person visits had been taken away before COVID around 2014, and that so many facilities were starting to adopt these video conferencing rooms where you'd still have to go through security and see your family member on a screen or pay for an app to do this. at home. And so all the girls and fathers, when I'd say, you know, what would you like to change, or what were the things that you'd like to change about the situation? They were all like, just want to touch them. It was just such a simple, pure, raw answer. So from their need and their desire, and then also from learning what the change had been, and with family separation, this became a very big theme. So it was something that we really started to think about when we were filming and notice and all these kinds of things. And also because of this theme of dance and human connection, there was always kind of an eye, I think, that Cambio put to the touch and the movement and like the human moments that would bring us together.
How difficult was it to have access to the facilities and shooting inside the prison?
I mean, because Angela had done this program for over 10 years, it wasn't hard because there's a lot of trust around this program and its success. But it was the first time that she got asked to bring it to Washington, D.C. So for me coming in at that point to make this film with her, that was kind of a silver lining because it's in the nation's capital and it had grew to another city. But it's very time consuming and harder, of course, on the crew and us figuring out what that workflow was. But it was great that Clinique had called Angela and asked her to bring the program because she'd heard how successful it was.
I would say the biggest challenge Natalie and the crew had is once you're in with your stuff, you can't go back out.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure, and we have to get everything approved. So she has to send a list of all the cameras. You know, everyone has to be, you know, also approved to come in. You have to check everybody's background check, no last minute people, you know, those things are the restrictions. But what I will say is my work in this particular jail and others have always found this one loophole that people would think would be where they really would be hardcore, and that is the time that the dance ends. Every time, it has never failed. I have 4 hours and I'm out in 6. The guards get so emotional, they're like, you know what, you can stay longer. Yeah. And it is strict, like you have to be out because we're about to change shifts, and they will figure it out and come and ask me, they were like, we don't think, you know, we want to end this. How do you feel about it? And I'm like, got them.
Yeah, when watching the guards dance and go down the Soul Train line and like be crying, it was the most incredible energy. I hope that the film captured like part of it, but I don't even think it does it justice to everyone together. Like the sheriff of the, you know, the jail serving the lunch and everyone's dancing. It's just so powerful, and everyone in that room is human and moved, and they're in spirit, and it's so beautiful.
I'd love to hear from your vantage point. You're co-director. This is your program, and also you're a subject in the film. Yes. How were you able to handle all those
all of those hats, right? I'm just like prepared for more hats, right? Because now it's some impact time, right? It's like this film is going to create change, and I just know that we need to be ready to make sure that we partner with, you know, organizations, that we respond to requests, and that we support other prison reform initiatives that are already doing this work to really change visitation practices so that we can continue to heal and build our families, that actually also pour into making sure our communities are intact. Because what happens with these families also affects us too. And so I'm just thinking about what is next, and just really grateful for the opportunity to be able to use a film to create change at this level.
Were you both conscious that we have never seen this aspect of the Black experience, seeing the man, the way you portray man in prison, the way you give so much agency to women? We have not seen this in a film before. You were conscious of the ground you were breaking as you were going along.
Yeah, so after my TED Talk, Natalie reached out to me, but before her, it was other filmmakers. And Natalie's email to me really centered the girls. And that was the reason I responded to her and really said, okay, I'm gonna give it a shot. use my own words, like get out of my way, my own fears, because my biggest fear is the protection of Black stories, because you are actually correct, right? We are stigmatized, stereotyped, it's specifically Black girls and women, right? It's very negative. And so I wanted to make sure that whoever I partnered with will understand that that is my first priority, is to tell you the story of what Black people experience every day, right? And that's really, my work. I am very fortunate to work in an organization that can see that Black girls can contribute so much to the world, that they come with already skills, that they already, enjoy butterflies and nature and all of these other images that you have had are very much so untrue. And so Natalie definitely saw that. And she also understood that, when they did go in to film the fathers, that we shouldn't have to say they're human. We should know this, but unfortunately we're in a society where we had to actually show you better than we tell you, because the messages out there are very negative. And so I'm really happy that we captured this. And we've been on this film circuit for a while, and I'm going to be transparent again. We went to Martha's Vineyard, and that's where I was the most nervous, because I knew that film festival was an African-American film festival, and I was waiting for a stamp of approval from my people, and my people came to me and said, absolutely amazing. And then I knew that I did something that was more than a calling, but a movement, a journey that I have been called to do. When they said, thank you, from a 100% Black crowd, I knew that I did something that we've been waiting for. Because one of the things I tell my girls, you are the hero you've been waiting for. You are all you need. And I showed my people that. And I got their stamp of approval that we needed something like this so long ago. It's so overdue. Not another slave story, not another girl shaking her butt story, but the love story of what we do and show up for our community every day. That I think that we created a solution about where storytelling can actually go. And I apologize for my emotion, but I've been waiting for that day.
Thank you. Natalie, you could have done this. You could have done this movie by yourself, but you reached out to her to collaborate. Tell us the importance of collaborating, the two of you.
I mean, it's been so special. Like Angela, I'm gonna cry now too. Angela's words were what inspired me at the beginning, and I feel like I heard something deep inside myself articulated in that TED Talk. You know how sometimes you've got something brewing and you're kind of working on it, or I was in a transition in my life, and then her words just said something so deep inside me, and they reminded me also of like these girls and this intuition, the wisdom they had at that age, when I was in a transition in my life and having like low self-confidence about where I was going to go or what was happening in my career and things like that. It reminded me to like think about what I thought of when I was 12, and I went back and I was like, you really wanted to be a documentary filmmaker. You wanted to make this impact on the world. So then I was like, okay, well, if this girl can bring me back to my why, these girls have the power to bring everyone back to their why. They're so inspiring. And then also, of course, the idea of our fathers being our mirrors. You grow up, and I think it's really universal that dads aren't always taught to be the most emotionally connected there. And in a lot of societies, they're doing work and away. And I grew up with the most loving father, but he was definitely not in the household a lot. So I, at that point as well, like, wow, maybe to get what I want in life, I also need to like mend and look at that relationship. And the fatherhood wound is just everyone has that and can relate to it. So again, I think it goes back to what these girls, these young Black girls, can teach all of us. So beautiful and so powerful. And they're way more resilient than me. I just keep learning every day, and so lucky to be around their energy and have this collaboration, because you can't tell a universal story, you can't tell a specific story unless you have trust and you're willing to learn and take time. And so that's why the only reason the film is what it is today is if we didn't spend the 8 years learning and doing it together and taking our time.
And Angela, I'm going to let you have the last word. What is the takeaway you want from the audience from watching?
I have a laundry list. But what I just know that we are entering into, an election year. We're about to shift. And I just think that when you look at a story like this, that it actually comes from how we, show up and vote in our local communities. So it is a film about awareness. Let's just pay attention to what is happening locally, what is happening, in our country and beyond, and how can you show up better. The takeaway is, what are the resources that you have? What are the connections you have? And what do you want to see change? And sometimes that means you hit yourself to a wagon already going uphill. For an example, it could be an organization right here that's doing this work, or you start something just like I did. When I looked out of my window and I did not like how Black girls were portrayed, and as a woman who once was a girl and understood that all I needed was someone to hear me, see me, and celebrate me, and they told me that programs like that didn't exist, so I started one on my own. So start something new or join something already happening. Yes.
The two of you are so inspiring, and it's a powerful, powerful documentary. Thank you. Thank you for your work and for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Everybody
Thanks,
spread
guys.
the word on the film.
Thank you all.